Questions presented during the September 28th and 29th tapings of Candidates Q&A were compiled by media representatives. The views expressed are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of the City of Cupertino. Five candidates are in the running for 2 seats on Cupertino City Council. As part of the City Channel's ongoing coverage of this race toward Election Tuesday, you're about to see an up-close and personal introduction to one of those 5 candidates. This is Candidates Q&A with tonight's featured City Council candidate, Michael Chang. Tonight's segment was recorded on Thursday, September 28th.
Welcome to Candidates Q&A. I'm Michael Cronk with the San Jose Mercury News, and this is Miguel Salinas with the Cupertino Courier. We're here with Dr. Michael Chang, candidate for the Cupertino City Council race. Welcome, Dr. Chang.
Thank you very much.
You're well known in the community as a professor and as president of the school board, but probably among the candidates in the field for this race, you're the least well known in terms of city politics. I was wondering, what was it that prompted you to enter the race? Were you approached by people in the community or any particular groups, or did you just think that there were certain things in the city that you wanted to change or help change?
Sure. As you know, I'm a professor at the Anza College, and that's what I do. And my sense of giving back to the community is, being on the school board, and that's something that I've done. What has happened is that I've had a very successful term on the school board, and this year's school board president, we've done a number of things that are very important for the school district, such as passing a major bond measure, such as opening a new school. Because of the success on the school board, I feel that the school district is in such good shape, is in such good hands, that I can free myself for some other challenges, and I look at the city as a personal challenge that I would like to enter into.
And what is the major issue you see currently that you, if you were on the council, that you would address first?
Sure. There are a number of issues that I would like to address on council. For instance, number one, the school district that I'm in Cupertino School District, has a very good relationship with the city. And what we have done is to, together with the city, join in a number of areas of partnership. For instance, we work very closely together in developing some school fields. We have finished 8 out of the 9 school fields, renovated them. What has happened is that in the daytime, the fields would be used for schools. In the evening and after schools, they would be used for city sports. And so what that took was a city and a district coming together to do something that would benefit both and the community at large. And that is something that I would like to do more, building on these partnerships between the city and the school district and the community.
Dr. Chang, what experiences did you encounter as president of the school board that you think will help you be an effective council member if you're elected?
A number of areas. Certainly being an elected officials allow me to understand the roles and responsibility of an elected official. That is something that's very important. I understand that the role of an elected official on a board or a council is really policy oriented, and how one must hold themselves in those kinds of discussions. The second thing is fiscally. Our school district is doing very well fiscally, and my background, my undergraduate background was in accounting, and so I bring that background to overseeing the fiscal portion of budgets, and our school district has done very well in terms of school budgets. In fact, we have been recently, you might have read in papers, given a AAA bond rating by Standards & Poor. And so I wish to bring that experience overseeing budgets, fiscal soundness to the city. Other things, being in the school board this year as school board president, as I mentioned, I've exerted leadership in taking our city through a bond measure campaign. It was a very extensive 6 months campaign, and helped to talk to many, many audiences to explain to them why this money is so important in our school district. When we renovate schools, they are good for 30 years, and all our children benefit from them, and that this is something that's truly important investment in our community, so that the money would not be taken away from education to do those necessary renovations.
I'd like to also ask you, do you believe that there are large numbers of people in this community who are not represented? I'm thinking in particular the large Asian community that exists in Cupertino and the surrounding area. And if so, is your running for the council part of wanting to provide a forum or as a representative perhaps for that community? Or get them more involved, or
sure.
serve as an example?
Sure. Certainly, I think that the present councils that we've had and the school boards that we have has done a very good job of representing everybody in the city and in the school district. And to the extent that I can also help to diversify that representation, I'd certainly be willing to function in that kind of a capacity. I think that one of my platforms in this campaign is Cupertino Together. How is it that we bring different people together in Cupertino? Our businesses, our residents, our school districts, our city. How do we bring it all together for the benefit of the city? And so I would be trying to be extremely inclusive in my approach and very grassroots oriented.
Dr. Chang, in your ballot statement, you mentioned a wide variety of issues as some of your priorities. Which one prompted you to decide to run for City Council to get the chance to offer your views on? I mean, there are several, like the general plan, heart of the city, slow growth and keeping businesses in town. Out of those, which one was your priority that encouraged you to run?
Those are all important issues. I do feel that all of them are very important. I could name out 4 or 5, but I think that I would come to City Council from my areas of strength, which is as an educator, being in the school district. I would be the person on City Council that would really advocate for partnerships, advocate for families and youth services. This is something that we invest in our youths and in our families, and I think that City Council can play a major role in working with the school districts, working together with the college, working together with the businesses to promote a number of things in our city. For instance, I would like to see Cupertino remain a very safe city, and in my neighborhood I've heard too many stories that make me feel uncomfortable about recent break-ins. And so I think that just as I need to become more aware as I hear these stories, that the area that we're in is somewhat changing. We need to be vigilant in working with the Sheriff Department to develop programs of awareness, maybe neighborhood watch, to make sure that our city remains safe, that our children have adequate services in the school, in the city. For instance, what we have now is that we are in a partnership between the Cupertino School District and the city in offering after-school programs to our children, and that's something that I would like to continue to promote. Maybe there needs to be more of a bike awareness program that we could coordinate again between the city, our community, agency, service groups, and again the school district to increase awareness of traffic safety. A number of issues like that. Those are issues that are close to my heart. But the other issues are also very important.
Well, in talking about issues that are in the forefront of this campaign and have been in previous campaigns,
Sure.
land use issues, the general plan. Everyone talks about the general
Sure.
plan, and particularly the amount of industrial growth or office growth allowed, particularly to the big 3 computer companies. The question I have is, in your view, if you were on the council, would you favor reopening the general plan and possibly scaling back the amount of growth, the Tier 2 growth allowed to those companies? And beyond that, do you have any concerns if that were done, if you felt that way and that's what should be done for the city, what effect it might have in terms of their continuing to do business or to locate in Cupertino?
Absolutely. The general plan is a long-term plan. It's meant to be a plan that's in place for 10 years. So any plan that's in place for 10 years needs to be revised and needs to be readjusted periodically during the time. And the general plan itself really accommodates that. We do have a lot of amendments of the general plan that occurs throughout these 10 years. So I am for limited opening of the general plan to revisit some issues and to fine-tune some of the assumptions that we made in 1990. Are they the same assumptions with the realities of today? Let us look at that again and fine-tune some of that. But in terms of revamping the whole general plan, I think that defeats the purpose of what it was intended to be from the first place, which is a long-term plan, and I wouldn't be supportive of a major revamping, but certainly fine-tuning in different areas and different
limited
issues.
Perhaps to looking at the growth issue and the tier
limited
2
to looking at the growth, because basically Cupertino is a built-out city, more or less. We're talking about pockets of infilling right now, and because it's built out, we have to be very careful about how we grow and what we grow. And I think I share the sentiment that we do not want a lot of high-rise growth. We do not want a lot of high-density growth in the city. And so we have to be extremely cautious about our growth.
Well, Dr. Chang, in the general plan, there are several incentives given to the big three high-tech companies. And I was just wanting to ask, if elected, how will you balance maintaining the slow growth in the city but allowing enough growth to keep the high-tech companies here in Cupertino and keep our community competitive in Silicon Valley?
Well, I will have a very fine line to walk, and I think the city will have an extremely fine line to walk in those issues. I feel that the two are linked together. On one hand, there's no doubt from a resident's point of view, we do not want more traffic congestion. We do not want a high-density city. It's very, very clear. On the other hand, the city, a third of its budget is really dependent on sales tax and use tax. The three big companies and the other big companies here, they pay a use tax. And because that amounts to a third of our city's general fund, it fuels our quality of life. So we have to, there's a fine equation there that we need to really try our best. I feel strongly for both, that's what I'm trying to say. That on one hand, our issues of quality of life is very important. We want to maintain the suburban character of our Cupertino. We don't want developments on the hillsides. We want to protect our neighborhood. On the other hand, we need economic vitality. My view of the economy, by the way, is that I feel that I would say I would be only cautiously optimistic. I've heard too many stories of people having job transitions. My wife just went through a job transition, and I know how tenuous families can be and how stressful jobs and marketplaces can be. So I see everyone, the businesses, the residents, as partners and members in our community, and somehow we need to get together to work out solutions that would work for everyone and to the best extent that we can, rather than trying to emphasize one to the detriment of the other.
Well, how do you feel you can accomplish balancing the residential growth that needs to exist with the high-tech, a burgeoning high-tech industry in Cupertino?
Right. I sense my preference, I think, if given the fact that in a city that that really, from a residential point of view, feel that we don't want a lot of high-density growth, if I have to really choose between growth, I would look at the commercial growth and say that what the commercial growth does is that the tax money from them go directly to the city, fueling our quality of life. I have talked to people. People said that, well, you know, the senior center really needs some expanding, really needs some renovation. The library, it's really ready for another, you know, catching up to the kind of education we have now. Now, those kind of renovations really do cost money, and if people really do want that, then we have to keep our tax base healthy. And the commercial side of it, the industrial side of it, does provide a significant portion of that tax base. And whereas in terms of residential growth, residential development, only 2% of property tax, when it goes to the county, actually comes back to the city. So a little bit of simple mathematics would make me feel that if I will have to really choose between them, I would lean towards reasonable accommodation of our you know, business needs here.
What's your position?
And limiting, you know, housing residential growth. Yeah.
What is your position on affordable housing? That's been a topic over the last several years. There are many people who are teachers and other occupations that make a good salary but cannot afford to live in this community. And there's an affordable housing committee in the city, and it's been looked at and kicked around a lot. Do you think there's a need for affordable housing?
Absolutely.
How much and of what type? Because you talk about high density, and many times affordable housing, to make it economically viable, will be of a higher density.
Yes. First, I do support affordable housing, and if there's housing that needs to be built in Cupertino, I'd like to, you know, see that it's affordable housing, because I think any community is stronger when we have different kinds of people living here, and people who have children and they grow old, they could still live here. That's very important. People who work here, if they want to live here, that's very important to accommodate those needs. Affordable housing is a label that has various meanings and various, I think in Cupertino, affordable housing is not that inexpensive, actually. Affordable housing can be, you know, a $200,000 home, and it's not that. And so what I think it's important is to say that, yes, we do want affordable housing. How we do it, we need to work with the neighborhoods. We need to work very closely to see what are the designs of affordable housing. I know these days affordable housing comes in many shapes and sizes. Affordable housing sometimes are single-family homes. Sometimes they are, you know, duplexes or fourplexes, and so there are many, many possible kinds of affordable housing.
Let me ask you just a question that I was thinking of in terms of your response in terms of housing. What would your feelings be about corporate campuses with living units? It's been tried elsewhere, talked about elsewhere. I'm not talking about cots in the offices of software engineers, but actual living units that are built under the, you know, it affords, the transportation is much of a problem, traffic congestion, because they're right there on the side. And certainly we have a lot of the big companies are here. They're already here. They're planning under the general plan more growth. Would that not, building some of these units on site might address, in your view, the affordable housing and or
yeah, I think that doing something like that would philosophically be correct, because a lot of these issues, whether it be housing or traffic, are regional issues, okay? And different cities do need to look into that and alleviate that as much as possible. I would definitely like to consider that, look into that. I think I would be encouraging that. I need to look also at the good things about it is that people are working and living in the same city, and that I think is a very big plus. It can mitigate some of the traffic problems. And as you mentioned, it may also mitigate some of the affordable housing issues that we have here. So I think that's an issue of encouraging some of the companies to look into that and say that, hey, that really is something. Can we work something out? Yeah, something creative.
Way.
And again, this is something that we could work together. I am a kind of person that likes to do things in moderation. And I think that as we look into that, I would like to I'd like to think through that and be moderate about it, and also see what kind of traffic impacts that also creates in that immediate neighborhood. I'm thinking about that whole area where the industries are, near Valco and that whole area.
Dr. Chang, I wanted to go back to affordable housing for a minute, just to follow up on a question. You had said that you support affordable housing, that it's needed, that it's good for a community to have diverse populations and such. And it seems like the growth of business and the residential growth are kind of coming together, and the land is becoming scarcer and scarcer. Do you feel that the only way to accommodate both is to maybe abandon the high density issue and start building up? Or where would you suggest affordable housing be put? If we need more, obviously, so
right.
where do you suggest that?
Certainly, I don't think we should build up. My wife is a very good check on these issues, and I think we reflect most Cupertino residents in saying that we really don't want to build up too much. And in fact, one of the buildings that was originally planned, the Tandems had one of the building originally planned to be a fairly high building, an 8-story so-called jackpot building. And I would have trouble with that, for instance, if that, being on Stevens Creek and that tall, I would have trouble with that. So I wouldn't like to see the solutions of building up. What I think we need to have is a commitment to saying that we want to have affordable housing. Will we reach that in a very short time span? I don't think so. But what we need to do is to have a real commitment and to chip away at it consistently and in a way that that makes sense to the neighborhoods that we. One thing that our school district is very good at, I believe, is that when we do something, we always have a very good process of having people buy in. Let's sit together. This is a common issue. This is something that we can work together with neighbors, other people. How do we make it work? And I think that if we work at it consistent enough, we will make a lot of progress. It wouldn't be overnight, but the commitment needs to be there.
You mentioned briefly Stevens Creek Boulevard. Of course, there was recently an adopted plan for Heart of the City. In your view, are you concerned, or is it important to you that the city have a core, a heart, a center? In other words, you support the recent action to beautify, to change the land.
Sure. I support the recent action to beautify, definitely. I don't know if it really, in a sense, I don't know if it really creates a heart of the city. It's there. Okay, right. I don't think it creates a real heart in a sense. I hate to, because the plan's called Heart of the City. But what it does do, when I look at the bottom line, is that it beautifies the city, and I think that's very important. I think Stevens Creek looked pretty ugly, actually, and so
well, let's divert from the issues just a bit, and I wanted to ask you if you could name 3 character traits that would make you an effective council member if elected.
Okay. Consistency. I'm very consistent. I'm willing to put in the time. I'm willing to be thoughtful. I'm willing to listen to people, and I have a track record of accomplishments. I'm a doer. I like to tell people, what I think. I like to listen to what people have to say, but I am most concerned about contributing to the community, and the greatest satisfaction that I get, and I think other council members, by the way, other people get, is when we can make a contribution to the city or to the district, whichever we are serving in, that we feel has a lasting effect, and that would be the most, that would be my driving urge to do something like this.
Are there any differences you see between serving on the school board and potentially serving on the city council? I mean, they're both elected offices and they're both similarly structured, but are there any differences you see or similarities in terms of politics?
Well, that's what people have warned me about and said that, city politics, it's different. And I think it probably is different, but I feel that I'm strong enough to both listen to all sides, and I feel that I have a set of values that I feel very comfortable with. I have a lot of respect for the community, where we've come from and where we might need to go. And I think that I have a thought process that helps me make decisions that I think would benefit the city in the long run. And so as long as I keep that as my goal, something to do that contributes, that's positive for the city, keep that in mind, and be open to different people, but be very independent in my decision making. That's how I think I could contribute to being on City Council.
And a final question, how would you work more cooperatively or regionally with other cities, particularly the cities surrounding Cupertino, Saratoga, and San Jose? Because you talked about partnerships with school districts,
Sure.
then of course.
Sure.
Do you think there's a need for it, and how might you?
Absolutely, and a lot of the issues that we face in Cupertino, especially the traffic issues, some of the housing issues, even the economic issues, we don't live in isolation. We live very close to the other cities. Jobs that are not created in Cupertino will be created in the other cities. So we need to be aware of that. Traffic do not only originate from Cupertino, they originate from our surrounding communities and so on. And so it is very important. That's why the city has many, when you're a city council member, you sit on many of these commissions that are intercity. And one does have to really be aware of what's happening in other cities and to coordinate. There, I think partnership to me is a much closer relationship, much more active relationship. But with the other cities, I think it's important to understand what other people are thinking and be able to coordinate our activities with them. One example is recently there's talk about how we can protect the hillsides together. Well,
exactly.
We don't have just one piece of hillside, and so that makes a lot of sense to think about it together and work on it together. And that's what we find. I think in this valley, we live in many communities. Cupertino is a community. We live in a broader community too, and there are many healthy signs of the whole valley coming together. Smart Valley initiatives, other initiatives in this valley that help us think through, what kind of future we have in this valley, and our future is really tied to each other in many ways.
Well, I believe that's all the time we have. I want to thank you for coming, Dr. Chang, and good luck with the campaign.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Election Tuesday is November 7th. Please vote for the two candidates best suited to serve on Cupertino City Council. And keep watching the City Channel for more special City Council election programming.